You know the vibes. Welcome back to another episode of the Hoop Genius podcast brought to you by NBA 2K23. Myself, Mamutsi, alongside me, as always, the one, the only, Mr. BJ Armstrong.
Real name, no gimmicks, no gimmicks. What you got for me, Mo? What you got for me?
I see you repping the 313, BJ. I see you.
Yeah,
I see
those my people out there. Those my people.
Well, we missed the episode on Friday's episode. That's my bad. Had a few technical issues, but we back rolling now. And I thought it's only right we give the people what they want. So you know what we're about to do.
Okay.
We got the questions in the Discord server once again. If you want to get involved, the link is in the description. So go and get involved. I got to say one thing. There's a bunch of questions here. 2, 3, 4, 5. We got 5 questions, right? We got 5 questions.
Okay, let's get it.
But these 5 questions, the level of depth to these questions speaks volumes to the quality of basketball fans that are in our community. Because this is the Hoop Genius community. And we got some young geniuses asking these questions. So we got 5 questions, BJ. We got about a half hour here. So we're going to have to go through these pretty swift.
Let's get through it.
The first one's from your boy, Harry Bridge, who says, one thing I've noticed is that a lot of young lead guards, this is how you know they're listening to BJ Armstrong, because they don't call them point guards no more.
Now you're talking. Now you're talking.
The young lead guards in the league tend to play in transition or create shots for themselves in isolation. Do you think there's still space for the pass-first lead guard in the NBA? Or is it a dying breed as the game becomes positionless? And to add to this, do you think positionless basketball is here to stay? Or do you think that defined roles could make a comeback? So that's like 2 questions in one. Let's start with the first part. Is there still space for pass-first point guards in the NBA, or is it a dying breed? Because when you think of pass-first, you really think, like, who in the league right now, BJ, would you call a pass-first point guard?
Well, Mo, I will say this. The NBA game right now, evolution is a part of the business, right? The game evolves. The game now, we're in an era. Go ahead.
I really want to make a Ben Simmons joke when we say pass first, because he ain't want to shoot. But
who's this? Who? Oh, Ben. Yes.
But I got to chill on the Ben Simmons jokes. I heard he's got another injury. I hope he gets better soon. But
yes,
but pass first. The last guy that springs to mind is Rondo, and he ain't even in the league no more.
Well, I think what has happened, Mo, is we've dissected the game so much now, and we've put it into these boxes, right? This guy is a pass first guard. This guy is a rebounder. This guy is a shooter. Okay. The game has evolved. Okay. And how has the game evolved? It's evolved, Mo, in a place now where the pace of the game is far superior. Okay. Far superior than the previous generation. Now, to some, you may look back and you can look at stats and you can argue, maybe Showtime played at the same pace as this era. I don't have all those numbers available to me. But however, on the whole, Mo, the game is much faster than it has been traditionally, especially when you start looking at the previous generation, the way the game was played in the 80s and the 90s, in particular the 90s. Okay. So now the game is played much faster. So you have pace. And then with this pace now, suddenly there became, the space on the floor, which is the 3-point shot. In my humble opinion, the 3-point shot created, 1 pass, 2 pass shot. Guy will just dribble it up, shoot it. Okay. So now the pace of the game is much faster, but also now you're having quicker shots or more shots, earlier in the shot clock than probably you've ever had. Okay. To me, that's the key. You're getting more shots earlier in the shot clock than I would go out on a limb and say probably any generation in the NBA. Steph Curry just comes up and shoot it. Dame Lillard just comes up and steps over Cash Courts and shoot it. You see this over, you'll see guys run a fast break and stop at the 3-point line. Okay. You just didn't see that in previous generations. Now, what does all that mean, Mo? Okay. When you start saying pass first guards, Mo, as I watch the game, I've kind of now come to this conclusion. This is just my own way of looking at the game. Professional players, and now, Mo, we're in this age of development, right? We talk, we draft these young guys, we draft these players, we're in the age of development. But truly speaking, in its purest form, professional sports, professional players are paid to win. They're not paid to play, they're paid to win.
Yeah.
And when you're paid to win, Mo, that's a lot different. So now you start looking at, well, this guy is, he can play 4 positions. This guy can play 2 positions. This guy, when you're paid to play, you start putting people in, you start having all of these potential ideas. But when you're paid to win the game, suddenly, Mo, it forces you to say, who's helping me to win the game? Because that's what you're paid to do. Okay. We've gotten away every year, Mo. We can say it this year. There's only about 4 or 5 teams that we really think can win it.
Yeah.
If we're going to be honest, let's just be honest, Mo. There's about 4 or 5 teams that we're really saying.
Like right now, I'm like, yeah, Milwaukee, Philly, and maybe if someone escapes the West.
Yes. And then, Mo, what we're saying is we have tanking, or, okay, that's a real thing.
Yeah.
Okay. And then we have teams, Mo, who's going to be the best team? You and I answered the question. Who's going to be the best team in 5 years? So development is a real thing. So we're like, you get excited now for teams who we think is going to be the best team in 5 years.
Yep.
So development, when you look at the NBA roster, and sorry for the long-winded answer, but when you look at a roster, you'll see 14, 15 coaches on the sideline because these guys are developing the players. But truly speaking, Mo, you're paid to win. And if you're paid to win, Mo, I've come to the conclusion, I've put everything into 4 categories, okay? And I don't care if you're a pass first, pass second, pass third, but there are things now that I put players into. The first thing, okay, Mo, the first thing is the playmaker group. Who are the playmakers? Okay, those guys look like Magic Johnson. Those guys look like Oscar Robertson. Those are the guys who play make. They just play make. I don't know if Oscar was a pass first guard. The guy averaged 30 points, 10 assists, but what I did know, he was a superior playmaker. Magic Johnson was a superior playmaker. Okay, you can argue, there have been others, right? You can put, whether it's John Stockton or whomever, but when you see playmakers, Mo, you know that they're a little different. And that to me, when you said Rondo is a playmaker.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know if he's a pass first, pass second, but I put him in the category. And the reason I'm putting him in these categories, Mo, is because the way the game is played now, you got to know the intention of the player that you're playing with, because everything now, Mo, is happening so quick. It's not like when the generation I played where I never worried about guys. Maybe there was one guy who would come down and shoot and would not pass it. But the rest of us, Mo, there were rules. You never did that. So I never had to worry about Horace Grant, for instance, just drilling up to the 3-point line and shooting. It never occurred to me. Yeah. I was the best 3-point shooter, one of the best 3-point shooters on the team, and I never did it.
In the league.
Okay. So there are the playmakers. Then the next group, Mo, is what I call the scorers. I mean, guys who just score, right? At its peak, you'll have guys like Jordan. You'll have guys like Kobe Bryant. You'll have guys like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Wilt Chamberlain. Those are the elite Mo, they can just score. Yeah. That's what they do. They score Mo, they can overwhelm you just with one thing. Who can just score? Okay. Then the next, which to me is they're the most impactful. This is the most impactful group ever in the NBA because they
Defenders.
affect the game. The defensive guys, they're like the giants of the game. They're the Titans. They are the elite.
Yeah.
That's the elite part of the game, right?
Yeah.
The Bill Russells, okay, the Akeem Olajuwons, the Tim Duncans, Kevin Garnett's. Those guys, Mo, Ben Wallace, those guys, they trump everything else. All right? Wilt Chamberlain averaged 50, but Bill Russell won all the championships.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Those guys trump everything. Okay? There's only one other category that offsets these defensive guys, and those are the playmakers. The playmakers.
So you got
can
playmakers,
offset.
scorers, defenders, and it's just those three. You said you had 4.
No, I got 4. I got one more category. So
Okay.
you have the defensive guys, and then the next category are what I've just termed, Mo, because I don't know what it is. So I just call them the hybrids, right? They're the Larry Birds, okay? They're the Dirk Nowinskis. They're the Steph Currys.
LeBron James.
LeBron James. They're just the hybrids. they do, LeBron James will have 28, 12, and 7. Larry Bird, same. Steph Curry, he's a hybrid of some player. So those 4 categories to me, Mo, is what I'm looking at every time I watch the game. Now, you and I just got done watching the game. We were watching the Denver
Bucks.
Okay. I'm watching Jokic, and I said, wow, Jokic is an elite scorer. We know that. Okay. But you know what, Mo? You know what offsets him against a defensive player of the year? His playmaking ability, Mo. You're absolutely right. So I was watching this game because I wanted to see the playmaking ability of him versus a defensive player of the year candidate in Brook Lopez.
Yeah. And Drew Holiday and Giannis. 3.
And the playmaking stayed true to what I've been saying now for years. It offsets. So when you play, and I'm not trying to give it away for Jokic, when you play against Jokic, the best probably way to beat him is to force him to be a scorer. Because once he starts playmaking, Mo, and the bench starts playing well, and the other guy starts playing well, now it's a free-for-all.
The problem is when you do that is he gets the guy guarding him. In fact, Brook Lopez picked up 4 fouls quite early on in this one. Like
that's what I'm saying. And Jokic
there's no
is
way.
playing. Yeah,
there's no way to stop him.
So, who's a pass-first guard? I don't know, Mo. But what I do know, Mo, is that when I look at the game now, you have to. If you're going to win the game, I'm not saying play the game. Right? There's a lot of guys who play. Guys are trying to get better and developing and hashtag striving for greatness and all those things. But what I know, Mo, if you're going to win and you're going to have an effect on the game, if you're going to affect the game, okay, the 2 things that affect the game the most are the defensive guys. They're the giants. They're the guys who they neutralize the other team's front court. And they neutralize the playmakers because the playmakers, if they're hesitant, right?
There's no one to make plays from. There's no one to make plays for.
If they can neutralize the game, the defensive players will dominate the game.
Yeah.
If the playmaker suddenly finds a wrinkle where he can score a little bit, where he can create opportunities, he finds a mismatch, he breaks the defense down, now, Mo, that's almost impossible to beat.
Yeah.
So there aren't many games there. And I'm going to say this because of the way the game is played now, Mo, with this pace and space, you have to have you've heard me say it. There's a blend of some formula there that you're going to find with a player who will be able to do it. I don't think it's possible in today's game to be a pass first guard without the ability to score. I don't. And the reason being, Mo, is because the 3-point shot now has made it impossible for a smaller traditional player to play without being a scorer. Steph Curry if there's one thing he's taught me, is you have to keep him honest. And the way you keep him honest is by scoring. You can't play now and be like a Mark Jackson, for instance, or somebody like that.
I think it is possible to play without having that scoring, but it can't be from the point guard position. You can be a Draymond Green.
Yes.
You can be, if Nikola Jokic decided he wasn't going to take any shots in the whole game,
but you have to have, but you have to have an elite hybrid player or an elite scorer to offset that. Because it's almost impossible. It's almost
not every
impossible.
team. It's very rare. Like, how many Draymond Greens are there in the world? One. How many Nikola Jokic's are there? One. How many? Do you see what I'm saying?
Steph Curry's.
So I think the reason why the guys we think of, like the Rondos, right, is now NBA teams, they have such an emphasis, as you said, on the speed of the game, the early offense. They want you to get down there, get off a shot as quick as you can. And then the spacing of the court now, if you have one guy who can't shoot the basketball and isn't a scorer like that, then it's easier to hide them when they're a Draymond and you use them as the screener or you have them dictating the offense. It's harder to do that when they're a smaller player. You know, the Clippers are only just now figuring out how to use Russell Westbrook, which they're doing a fantastic job of. You know, a lot of dribble handoffs, using him as a screener and stuff as well. But it's difficult for teams to learn how to play like that. So I think that's the reason why. The other reason why is if you look at the evolution of the game, who are young kids? No young kid is growing up now watching anyone in the league being like, damn, I want to pass like this guy. They all want to score. They all want to play like Dame Lillard. They want to play like Steph Curry. So the emphasis on that game, when you look at guys now, the young players coming in, maybe Lonzo, you could have put into that pass first category when he came into the league. Maybe even Halliburton now, but he has to score because he's been given that role by his team. So that's my take on it. The second part was, do you think positionless basketball is here to stay, or do you think defined roles can make a comeback? I think the league is going to get more and more positionless, because if you look at the evolution of what big fellas are doing now, it's going to be very difficult to find big guys who just want to post up. So I think teams have worked out, and it's not just big guys. You can't just be a role player now. Look at Duncan Robinson for the Miami Heat. He got paid all that money because he could shoot. And teams figured out that all he can do is shoot. You have to be able to, you can't just be a spot-up shooter now. We just watched the Nuggets and the Bucks, right? Bruce Brown, first of all, who wasn't really that good a shooter, learned how to shoot. And now tonight, he's making plays off the dribble as well. You've got to be a well-rounded player to compete in the modern NBA. So I think that defined roles, okay, you're a big guy, you go post up. You're a lead guard, you're just going to make plays for your teammates. You're a shooter, you're just going to shoot. I don't think that we're going to see that changing anytime soon. It has to. You have to be able to do everything.
I'll give you a little pushback on this one, Mo.
Okay.
I think the bigs overall, with the exception of a few, right? With a few, Bam Adebayo, Draymond Green, with exception of a few, you know, your guy Rob Williams when he's healthy, they're just beginning to figure out, okay, how to guard these smaller players.
Yeah.
Okay. Draymond is unique because he's not really a big. He's really a guard, but he's an undersized player. Once these bigs figure out how to defend and play this era, it will neutralize these smaller players. Why? Because you can run them off. You can run them off the line. They have the size and length. Size and length is the one thing that doesn't deteriorate with age. However, these 7-footers or these big guys, they're not growing up playing one-on-one like us little guards do. Yeah. And then when you switch on them in an NBA game, it really throws them out of whack. However, you're beginning to see them get better and better. These guys like Al Horford, Kevon Looney, you're beginning now to see better and better defensive players. So much so now, a guy like Wembanyama will come into the league, Mo, and they're under no circumstances would I be resistant, okay, if I was on a team with him, to say, let's just switch and no one helps. Because, Mo, he moves and plays like a guard. He's not like Rudy Gobert, where you isolate him or you could target him.
Well, that goes to what I'm saying is I think more and more guys are going to be like that coming into the league in future generations.
And because more and more guys will come in, I think now suddenly the game will revert back to the bigs, because the bigs now will take advantage of the smaller guys on the block. See, I think the game is going to go to like this. I'm playing against Chris Paul. I'm just going to target Chris Paul. Or I'm going to target the smaller guards. I'm going to target.
Well, then I think the answer to the question depends on the time span you're looking at. Because I think you're right in what you're saying, but that will then cause another shift where we just see only big guys playing the game.
And what's my dream? And what's my dream? And what's my dream?
We all know all 7 footers. So
I want all 7 footers.
So Chris Rose actually followed up from that question, and he says, because you're the point guard guru, he says, you mentioned previously about shifts in the game, i.e. changes at the 4 spot towards stretch fours in the last decade, and we just talked about the bigs. But he said, is there a smaller shift happening towards the explosive downhill point guards right now? Feels like with Ja Morant, De'Aaron Fox, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, now younger guys like Ivy and Scoot, there's a shift in what the lead guard position is becoming. Well, I think the answer to that is pretty simple. The NBA is starting to figure out that there's only one Stephen Curry. So instead of picking guys who will try and play like Stephen Curry, they're picking guys who are explosive and athletic at that point guard position that can attack downhill and score in transition. Because it's very difficult to pick point guards every time who rely on 3-point shooting, because you just can't do it at the same rate of what you're trying to copy in Golden State. That's just my take on it. What do you think, B?
Well, first, that's a phenomenal question.
Shout out to Chris.
And here's the thing that is the biggest shift in the NBA currently right now. At one point, you only could say this about collegiate basketball. And in college basketball, whoever had the best guard play, especially in the NCAA tournament, would probably win. Would probably
that
win
tournament's chaos right now, by the way.
Okay. When you have good guard play in college, you would probably win. Now, Mo, the hybrid player to be, especially at the guard now, is just, you got to have it. Okay. And that means your guard better be able to score, be able to play downhill. So it's led me to say the following: you don't win in this league, college or the pros. First time I could ever say that in my lifetime, without great guard play. You have to have great guard play, guards who can play downhill, who could score, who could attack that basket, and read the play. Not make the play, read the play. Meaning, Mo, they got to be able to score. They have to be able to attract 2 or more defenders, and they got to be able to read where the defense is helping from. So that, to me, is paramount in today's game. You have to have a guard who can do that, and do that at a high level, because it allows you to play advantage basketball. 4 versus 3, 3 versus 2, 2 versus 1. And if you can read those plays as a guard today with the ability to score, you got to be able to score, not only at the basket, from the 3-point line, right? Because if you take too many of those mid-range as a guard, you're not going to shoot a high enough percentage. Okay. So with that, you got to have it. So I think that is probably the most important thing in today's guard play. And you got to have a guard who can do that at a very high level.
And also, because of the rest of the team now, everyone has to be able to shoot. You know, you got the wing players, they have to be able to shoot. You now have the bigs, you know, look at Brook Lopez, you have to be able to shoot. The best way to open up your teammates is applying rim pressure, getting to the basket, getting 2 feet in the paint. So when your lead guard can do that, i.e. a De'Aaron Fox or a Ja Morant or a Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, it collapses the defense and it opens up your team. So if you want to be a pass-first guy, maybe the best way to become a pass-first guy is to be the best at attacking the basket, because then you're going to collapse defenses and get the passes out for your teammates. So we've got another question here from our man HD Reddy, who on a similar note says, with the increase in ability across the board in basketball from the 1 through 5 positions over the last 20 years, and teams always hunting for mismatches, do you foresee a time in the future where being an elite offensive player but poor defensive player, Trae Young, for example, won't be tolerated as much, and coaches place emphasis on their defensive effort and capability? HD Reddy, I don't know your real name, but this is my dream. My dream is for BJ's dream is for all 7 footers. My dream is for games where there's no bad defenders on the court. If you can't guard, you stay on the bench. That's my dream. If you're Trae Young, you better learn how to guard or you're staying on the bench. What do you think, BJ?
Well, you know, Mo, look, I would love to, you know, say, hey, you got 5 or 6 defensive elite players. However, you know, that's I don't think that's possible. right? Everyone has a gift. Everyone has a strength and a weakness to their game. And what I know is this: these offensive players, especially the way the game is played today, the way the rules are set up, Mo, the offensive player has a significant advantage.
Yeah. And when you look at the top, quote unquote, top players in the league, the Luka Doncic's, the Trae Youngs, for example, the Ja Morants, they're all pretty bad defenders.
You're right. Well, listen, I don't know if they're bad defenders or not, but what I do know, defense starts with two things. You got to give the effort and the energy necessary to play. And all right, Trae Young is not an elite defender like Jrue Holiday. Okay, that's fine. There's no reason for him not to give the effort and the energy necessary.
Yeah. He's not even an average defender. He's to me, Patrick Beverly uses the term a cone.
And that to me is now all of a sudden that in my opinion, right? That's just effort and energy. Okay. Yeah. And when you are playing winning basketball, when you're trying to win the game, it's impossible to win without giving the effort and the energy necessary on that end of the floor.
No secret to it. Like, I don't know, BJ, you tell me if I'm wrong, right? Stephen Curry clearly is gifted at shooting the basketball, right? Ja Morant is clearly gifted with his athleticism, right? Jokic is clearly gifted with his passing ability. But defensively, if you hustle and you study your opponent's tendencies, there's no reason why you can't be a good defender. I'm talking at the guard position because we're talking about Trae Young. Obviously, Nikola Jokic is never going to be an elite defender staying with players on the perimeter, right? Obviously, smaller players and Trae Young's never going to be able to switch onto a 5-man and guard him. But I mean, guarding at your position, if you just study the opponents you're coming up against, learn their tendencies, and you give 100% on every possession, there's no reason for anyone to be a bad defender. If I simplified it too much?
Yeah. Well, like I said, you listen, you can say what's good and what's bad. I'm looking for the effort and the energy necessary. Trae Young is playing against Kevin Durant. I don't care if he's a great defender. There's nothing he could do but give me the effort and the energy necessary.
That's what I mean. Like, I don't think Steph Curry is a good defender, but he plays hard. Like in the playoffs last year, he played hard.
Well, Steph Curry provides the effort and the energy necessary. And here's defense. If Mo shoots every shot that's contested and he shoots it over the top of me, I can live with that. Every coach in the NBA can live with that one. What I can't live with, Mo, are blow-bys. What I can't live with, Mo, is you not trying to get over a screen. What I can't live, Mo, without you putting a hand up.
And here's the other thing. If every shot I have to take is contested, that takes its toll on me by the time I get to the damn fourth quarter. I think, man, I can't get an open look on this guy. He's got his hand in my face on every damn shot I take.
Well, I can live with that. Okay, so your job, whoever this player is to be as disruptive as you can. Some are better than others. Jrue Holiday, Marcus Smart, they're phenomenal. But I can't ask a player with Trae Young's body type to do what Marcus Smart does. Like, that doesn't even make sense to me.
I can ask him to try and get through a screen, though. You can at least try.
I can give him, Mo, okay, with his body type. First, the guy is 160 pounds, maybe.
Yeah, it's tiny.
What is he going to do on a screen set by Joel Embiid? He's not trying. He could try all he wants to get through a 300-pound screen. He's not getting through that, Mo. Okay?
He can try and navigate it. I'm not saying he has to go. He can try and navigate it.
No, Mo, this is what he can do. Do not let the guy you're guarding go away from the screen. That's all he can do. So there are limitations to what every player can do. Mo, every player has limitations. However, every player has responsibility. We're only as weak as the weakest link on the chain.
Yeah.
So his job is to push it to the screen and get around that screen as best you can.
There you go.
I don't know how he's going to get around Joel Embiid's screen. I don't know how he's going to get around a Jokic screen. There's a lot of guys. I don't know how he,
I mean,
he's 160 pounds.
Well, the way that guy set screens down, maybe if you're actually trying to get through it, they get called for an illegal screen. But that happens a couple of times. It changes the momentum of a game. But if you just simply give up an easy switch, that's not even a possibility.
He has to have some responsibility. Now, I'm not picking on Trae Young. I'm just saying he has to play in a system where everyone is held accountable to whatever it is they can and can't do. Because, well, what we know is every player has to have some responsibility on the defensive end. Because you have an individual responsibility along with the team responsibility. So, I mean, that's a great question, man. We could go on and on about with that question.
We got another one. Andy Williams, a resident Utah Jazz fan, says, with 3 7-footers starting and a point guard with a wingspan of 7'1", is it positional size the reason that the Jazz have lingered for so long around the playoff spots? Do these factors help with the recently implemented zone defense? Number one, of course, 3 7-footers on the court and a huge wingspan on the perimeter is going to help massively anytime you're running a zone. And I think there definitely has an impact on why the Jazz have actually overperformed compared to what everyone thought. Because at the end of the day, like you said, BJ, being tall and being big doesn't change throughout your career. But also through a 48-minute game, being tall and being big doesn't change as the time progresses. Smaller players can get tired. Tall players are never going to get shorter by the end of the game. What do you think about the Jazz and their size?
Well, Mo, I think the next wave, if you will, and I have no idea, but I think the next wave will be the development and the growth of zone defense in the NBA.
Yeah.
Because this is a league that's always been a man-to-man league. The game has emphasized man-to-man, you versus me. And Mo, now you're beginning to see more and more zone. Okay.
I can't wait for you guys to hear this AI interview because we talked about this as well.
The first time the implementation of a zone defense caught my eye was in the NBA Finals when I saw the Toronto Raptors. They went a zone and one on Steph Curry, and I thought,
so for you guys who don't know, that's where 4 players make up a zone. It's called a box of one. So 4 players make up what would be a box formation, and 1 player is chasing Steph Curry on every possession.
So when I saw that, I thought to myself, and I wrote a little note to myself, that may be the future of the NBA. Okay. Then you're going to see a triangle in 2. That means there's 3 guys playing a zone and 2 guys chasing perimeter players. I think at some point, Mo, you will see 5 guys playing 1-2-2s. I think you'll see more guys implementing more pressure in the backcourt to take advantage of 2 things. The 8-second count. The 8-second count to me is set up for the defense to really take advantage of just getting the ball across half court in 8 seconds.
Takes time off the clock. Teams can't get into their sets early. It stops early transition scoring.
And I think more teams will start to trap and say, you know what? We have to show some kind of resistance on the defensive end because these players are shooting at such distance, Mo, that you can't guard them. Like Damian Lillard, these guys are shooting at such a high clip.
Dame says he feels like he can score anytime he gets to the halfway line.
Okay, so I think you will see that, and I think that will be the next evolution. And what's going to allow you to do that, Mo, is length. Okay, so we're already having premium on this particular player. Everyone's looking for defensive wings. Why? Because that allows us to switch. But what if, Mo, you could just zone it up now and force guys to say, I'm not going to throw it to the corner because I don't want to get trapped in the corner with the ball in my hand with 2 7-footers trapping me. Mo, now I'm going to trap Chris Paul and these guys in the backcourt just to get it out of his hand. And now every other team is going to be forced to start their offense without their traditional lead guy to start the offense.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think these defenses, I think these coaches are going to at some point figure out how to play zones in the NBA and play from that. Now, do I think they'll? I think that's going to be because Mo, if you had 5 7-footers, it doesn't really matter now.
Yep.
Now you're just guarding areas on the court.
Mm-hmm.
You're just going to guard an area. And if you're guarding an area with a 7-footer, Mo, now you've shrunk the court to almost impossible. You know, I say that all the time because Mo, I'm banking on the following. I can't guard Steph Curry anyway, right? I can't guard him. But you know what, Mo? If I have 5 7-footers, I can guard him.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't matter where he's at now. Now, Mo, I've taken away his ability to drive to the basket. He has no chance. So now he's going to get a contested shot over 7-footers, which is going to, at some point, Mo, change the trajectory of the ball. I'm not saying he's going to block it.
I'm going to say the law of averages. Like, unless you're shooting over 50%, I'm going to say the law of averages.
Yeah. So, and then Mo, I'm only going to concentrate on one thing on the offensive end, offensive rebounding.
Yeah.
Mo, just throw the ball up there. Give the ball to Mo. He'll probably miss it more times than he misses it, but just shoot it. I'm just kidding. But Mo's going to get 40. Mo's going to get 40 shots. They're going to we're just going to let Mo shoot.
I'm on my 12.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Mo goes 12 for 40. We're good with that. We're like, okay, that's great. They're like, well, we let this guy get 40 shots.
I wish I had a coach who was okay with me going 12 for 40.
Hey, Mo, that's part of our offensive scheme.
Okay.
Offensive rebound. You know what I mean? We need Mo to just make 12 or 40. That's all we're asking. So
I got you.
I think that's how it's going to. I think that's probably how it will be the next phase of the NBA.
All right. We've got one final question here. Mr. Chile says, in today's episode, I think it was a few days ago, you talked about your top 3 MVP picks and they were all on the East Coast. Well, this was a way back question because this is when you were talking about Tatum. Obviously, Jokic is in that mix. But he says, does the high competitiveness of the West go against the individual honors, or is it just a coincidence seeing as Jokic and Luka have dropped off? I think it's more of a... I think Jokic is very much in that conversation. But I think...
Yeah, Jokic,
being in the Eastern Conference, which is a tough conference for... excuse me, what might be the first time since I don't know when, it's more meaningful to have the number 1 record or the number 2 record than it is in a Western Conference.
Right. Well, I think Jokic is, without question, is in the conversation. You know, the big fella, give or take, whether it's Embiid, Jokic, Giannis, I think it's right there. I think right now, you know, look, Giannis is always there, and I don't want to just say, you know, just take him for granted. Okay. However, I think if you asking me today, I think it's going to come down between Jokic and Embiid.
Yeah. But
I think that's what today, but I think Giannis is right there. I don't think Tatum has kind of, you know,
the Celtics have dropped off as a team a little bit.
Yeah.
And that harms things.
But I think right now it's between Jokic and Embiid, if you're asking me today.
Yeah, I think, though, outside of Jokic, there's not really many candidates from the West. I think Shea could get on some ballots because of what he's done for the Thunder. But because the West, 2 through 4 is a bit of a mess, and then 5 through 12 is a bit of a mess, it's hard to stand out. Whereas in the East, Embiid and Giannis, the 1 and 2 seeds, and maybe even Tatum could be in a mix with the Celtics there. It makes the wins kind of more meaningful, which is a big factor in some people's ballots of the MVP is the best player on the best team. So it's harder to become the best team when you're on the West. But those were some great questions, BJ. Those were some absolutely amazing questions. Shout out to our community here in the Discord server.
Incredible. You know what? Thank you guys so much. You know, I'm always amazed is, you know, you're always, you know, you're talking, you never know who's listening, first of all. But those are incredible questions. Keep them coming. I mean, those are real. I mean, those are amazing questions. I mean, you guys are amazing the way you're watching the game. So thank you guys. And then we'll just keep going. But I'm going to tell you what, Mo, you know what's fun, Mo, is what is the game really going to look like? Mm-hmm. I'm really excited about the evolution of the game, because if it's one thing that I've learned is that you never stop learning, and the game never stops evolving.
Mhm.
And it just keeps moving forward, and it takes on different, looks and different forms. And this has been an interesting generation because the hybrid player, the guy who kind of, the Steph Currys, those guys really, they started playing, and you were like, well, how are you going to win with a hybrid player? You can't win with the guy, shooting threes, right? You got to have some level of, blended balance of basketball, but you can, Mo. And that's what Steph Curry showed us. And just like the previous generation, Jordan showed us that you actually can build around a score.
Yeah.
Right. It was always the big thing, Wilt Chamberlain versus Bill Russell. Well, Wilt Chamberlain averaged 50. I mean, Wilt Chamberlain averaged 50 and like 25. And still couldn't beat Bill Russell. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So it was always the debate. And then there was like, you can't build around a guy. You can't win with the guy, Michael Jordan. You can't build around a guard. Well, he showed us you could.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I'll say this. The last thing I'll say is I went to see this new movie, Air. Shout out to for the invitation. They gave me an early access to see it. And that was one thing in the movie of why Nike were hesitant to sign him at first, was they didn't think that he would be successful, because he's just a guard who scores a lot. And,
Mo, here's the thing. Here's the thing I love about you. I love about you, and I love about our listeners. We're all life learners, right?
That's facts.
We just keep, you can't just say the game continues to evolve. Life continues to evolve. And if you're not learning, Mo, you're not living. So facts. I can't just say what it looked like in my era and then say that's how it is. And no, you keep learning, you keep moving forward, you keep pushing. So hey, I'm going to keep learning. I know you're going to keep learning.
I'm learning
by
from
the questions
best.
We're getting, and the questions we're getting, clearly they're learning. So we'll just keep moving forward here. And Mo, maybe one day you and I, one day you and I are going to be talking about literally 10 7-footers on the floor. Because that's where it's gonna, Mo. That's where it's gonna happen. Mo, there's going to be a 7'5" guy next year dribbling the ball up the court, playing the point guard position.
Yeah,
his name is going to be Victor Wembanyama, and we could sit here and right now. But
Chet's loading as well. Chet's coming back.
Chet's coming back. Victor's coming, and there's going to be more players coming, and then those guys are going to get better on the defensive end. These guys are going to all get better passers. They're going to be better playmakers. Then some of them they're going to be more Kevin Durant's coming to the league, and then Mo, there'll be another Tim Duncan that'll come in and suddenly dominate the game like Olajuwon and these guys. And then Mo, we'll have a game where literally there'll be 7-footers, Mo, that will be there will be a 7-foot Magic Johnson. There'll be a 7'2" Kevin Durant. There'll be a 7-foot Michael Jordan.
Crazy.
It's going to be nuts. I mean, Mo, it's going to be nuts. And you're going to see a game. Mo, I want to say this. When I watched Victor play here in Vegas, the guy was doing things, Mo, and blocking shots that I don't know what the officials were talking about. They didn't know if they didn't know if it was a block. They didn't know if it was goaltending. Mo, he was doing things from angles that you just didn't know. I'm looking for the next guy, Mo, that's going to change the rules of the game. Because, Mo, they're going to have to make the game bigger when you put 10 of these guys.
You're going to put that hoop up at 12 foot, son.
Well, Mo, I think you got to spread the floor out. Mo, they're going to have to do something, Mo, to accommodate the athletes that's coming in this league. That's the last thing I'm going to say.
Yeah, man. Well, we appreciate everyone who sent in their questions. If you want your question answered, the link is in the description of this podcast to join the Discord server. There's a little channel called Let Us Hear From You. And if you put your question in there, it will be answered on the show. Shout out to everyone who sent their questions in. Shout out to everyone who stays locked in. I've had so many nice tweets over the last few days of people showing their support and their love for the show. It really means the world that you guys enjoy this. That's why we do this every day. And we're going to keep it going, B. We're going to keep it going. The playoffs are almost here.
Keep it going. And the croissants French toast, Mo, is out of this world.
Starting
I showed it to my wife. I said it to my wife. We just picked up a new listener. She goes, I want to start listening. What are you saying? What are you saying?
I have to be on my best behavior now.
Yeah.
Shouts, Mrs. Armstrong. Listen, first of all, I can't be thinking about French toast because I'm about to start fasting again. But tomorrow,
sorry.
I might break my fast with a little French toast, but you never know. You never know.
All
Anyway,
right,
we're gonna be
right.
back tomorrow with more from the Hoop Genius podcast. So don't go anywhere. And guys, I know you guys have been waiting for the Iverson interview. Let me tell you one thing. The files were so big. BJ, guess how long my computer told me it would take to download these files?
Oh gosh, 3 days.
11 days. So it's on the way. The reason being is, first of all, it's like a 45-minute interview, but it was also filmed in the highest spec cameras possible available in the world. I brought in the big dogs for this because it was a special one. So just stay locked in. If you want to stay locked in, subscribe to the show, hit the notification bell, never miss an episode, leave a review and all that good stuff. And also, I will be giving away a signed Allen Iverson jersey in the episode.
Beautiful.
So you don't want to miss that. In the meantime, you guys know the vibes. There's only one thing you can do, and that's get buckets.